Fuck off.
Have you ever felt ashamed to identify as a men's rights activist?
Bullies and troglodytes.
For too many years, we've had presidents that don't defend their own citizens and don't defend, don't put America first. They put illegal immigrants first or anything else first except for America.
Because multiculturalism is ethnic apartheid.
Dorothy, we're not in Kansas anymore.
So we're here in Parliament Square in front of the statue of a very courageous man, Winston Churchill, to commemorate Paul Elam, another very courageous man.
Comparing Paul Elam to Winston Churchill, I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know where to fucking begin! Hello there everyone, and welcome to episode 55 of The Descent of Man-osphere, the series where I take you through the ways in which the Man-osphere and its utterly disgusting, reprehensible douchebag inhabitants are trying to reverse human evolution and drag us all back into the fucking sea. And today we are taking our annual expedition into the forest of derp of MRA land as we take a look at the International Conference on Men's Issues 2018! This year, the event was being held in London, just like it was in 2016. However, it was very nearly held right here in my hometown of Birmingham, England. And to add an even weirder tint to it on a personal level, it was originally going to be held at St Andrew's Stadium, the home of the mighty Birmingham City. My football team, or soccer team, if you're American. I actually did a supplemental episode of this series concerning a promotional video Mike Buchanan of the laughably named Justice for Men and Boys, open brackets, and the women who love them, close brackets, party, who, lest we forget, got just 153 fucking votes in the 2015 general election. What a wanker. Anyways, Mike put out a promotional video filmed at the stadium, and I did a watch and mock session on it. I'll leave it linked below. My favourite moment of that video, though, was this piece of Alan Partridge madness.
Should have bought basketball.
Oh! Oh, I mean, he really is. He's like Alan Partridge, but not in a funny way. Anyways, right. The fact that the ICMI 2018 was going to be held at a stadium that I attend every other week, at least every other week during the season, was fucking mad for me, okay? Because my football life and my opposition to MRA life are like two completely separate worlds in my mind, okay? Never the twain shall meet. Not because I choose to make them not meet, but they just don't, really. They don't overlap. There's no sort of meeting point, really. So the fact that these two worlds were colliding enormously was fucking strange for me. It was like a hole had been ripped in the space-time continuum. I mean, if this was possible, what else would happen? Would I wake up tomorrow and my legs would be made of fucking ice cream? I don't know. Would Rory Cats turn into chicken? And on that point, Rory Cats, if you were chicken, would you eat yourself?
My love for the chickens is strong. So oui, if I was the chickens, I would eat the chickens.
Fair enough. Anyways, yes, the fact that this event was going to be held at St Andrew's Stadium was fucking mental for me. But luckily, that never actually happened, because once the football club found out the kind of scummy scumbags and fucky fuckwits that they'd, rented out the stadium's conference facilities to, they decided, nah, we don't want to be associated with bastards like you. And naturally, Mike Buchanan was fucking furious.
I expect pressure to build from the fan base and the supporters clubs, because at the end of the day, 95% of the money that goes into Birmingham City Football Club comes from men.
Yes, yeah.
And a lot of their supporters, a lot of the fans also are boys. So this is a conference on men's and boys' issues. They should be proud to host the conference.
Hi, Mike. I'm a season ticket holder at the football club. Okay, I put my own money into going there, and I've never been prouder of the club for kicking you fucking scumbags to the curb, except for maybe the 2010-11 League Cup final win. That was pretty fucking special. Oh, Obafemi Martins, you little fucking legend. But anyway, yeah, I'm very proud of the club for booting you fucking scumbags as soon as they found out who you were and what you were. Because you fuckers don't actually care about the well-being of men and boys. You're just misogynist filth. Also, Mike, what happened to that lawsuit that you were definitely going to be taking out against the football club? What's that? It didn't fucking happen at all. It's almost like you're totally full of shit or something. But anyways, yeah, with their original venue now not available to them, thankfully, the ICMI rabble went to the only place that would have them, the same place that had them in 2016, which by the way is the Excel Centre in London, which also hosts, international arms fairs where brutal murderous dictators buy their guns. So, not necessarily an arena with the highest repute, possibly. Not that they're doing anything illegal, not accusing them of anything illegal whatsoever, they're just hosting a gun and bomb fair. Brilliant. So anyway, yeah, the ICMI 2018 was being held in the centre of London. And at the event, there was one topic on everyone's lips.
Feminism.
A movement of feminism.
How much do you think modern feminism is...
Yeah, feminism. I shouldn't take the piss, but it's funny. You said feminism. But anyways, as to the serious point here, every time these pricks get together, they show more and more conclusively what I've known for ages and been saying for ages, that these fuckers really aren't, an actual movement unto themselves. They're not really a movement for anything. They're just a reaction to feminism, a really spiteful, hateful reaction to feminism. That, they're just a hateful bunch of fucking douchebags trying to roll back the gains for equality made by the feminist movement. And being the hateful cockwombles that they are, at the event there was the usual array, or even array of misogynist bigotry. She'll take that one again. Okay, right. And being such hateful cockwombles, they're a bit... fuck's sake. Right, just roll the fucking clips with the misogynist fucking shitbaggery.
And we have a very good lineup. Shall I take you through the lineup quickly?
Go for it.
Yeah. The two hosts, well, we're co-hosting it with The Voice for Men. So Paul Elam, who needs no introduction, the founder and publisher of The Voice for Men, will be speaking on female privilege, why women should be ashamed of themselves.
And your talk has sort of solidified some of this, but I am not sure that any of this stuff is ever going to get better for men until women start feeling the pain of how bad it is for men.
And if anyone who saw that disastrous performance I gave on the big questions where I was just quiet and did fuck all, you might remember that ugly bitch, the crime commissioner for North Yorkshire. And
I'll just say that as a class, I believe women are becoming more dysfunctional with every passing year.
Yeah, they really are fucking scummy individuals, these MRAs, aren't they? And of course, incredibly dishonest and /or fucking stupid, because apparently they really don't like identity politics.
Firstly, identity politics. Surely the curse of our time.
Populist movements are growing everywhere, fired up by people who are done with identity politics.
I've grown to detest identity politics and regard it as utterly contemptible.
But guys, right, let me spell this out for you as clearly as I possibly can. You are at a men's rights conference. A men's, as in men, an identity there, right? Men's rights conference. Men's identity rights politics conference. Politics. Identity politics, you fucking idiots. You can't stand there and say you're against identity politics at an identity politics event. It's ridiculous, okay? It's like saying you're a fucking vegan whilst eating a beef burger, you fucking twats. Not that we should be remotely fucking surprised at the fact that they mislabel themselves, because that's what they always do. They're fucking liars, right? They're propagandists. And of course, it's enormously hypocritical, because whilst they always ramble on and on and on about, their usual fucking talking points like, you say everyone's a Nazi, everyone's a Nazi, everyone to the left of Karl Marx is a fucking Nazi, and you've thrown the word of racism around too much, it's basically meaningless now. The usual fucking bollocks. And yet they seem rather comfortable throwing around some pretty big fucking labels, especially where they're not fucking warranted.
The liberal left has culturally appropriated the far right.
We should be pulling up people in our circles who identify as feminists when they actually don't. They actually are much more balanced in their outlook than the current feminist positions. Because I look forward to the day when we view people who identify as feminists as domestic terrorists.
Feminism is a hate movement.
Within the Roman Catholic Church, radical feminists continue to fight this battle, and the present Pope is very much on the left, very much feminist, progressive, Marxist.
Feminism is an offshoot of Marxism, so we shouldn't be surprised that the Labour Party in the UK is so anti-male.
And so did you know that the leaders of your movement are basically Nazi fascist bigots, and even though they're calling others that, that's actually what they are.
So it's just fucking terrible to throw around, you know, massive labels willy-nilly, but the feminazis are all Nazi commies. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, these people are just... It's hypocrisy manifest in MRA scumbaggery. I don't even know if that sentence makes sense. Whatever. I'm going with it. And of course, with throwing massive labels around where they're not fucking warranted and where they don't really mean anything in the context they're being used in, of course the men's rights movement have descended into the far-right morass of fucking conspiracy bullshit that is cultural Marxisms.
Yeah, we're starting to see some actual, fiery rebellion against the cultural Marxists.
Where cultural Marxism is coming from.
Cultural Marxism.
And cultural Marxism.
Yeah, you know, that cultural Marxism thing that's definitely real and actually, you know, exists, and it totally isn't the fever dream of far-right fucking fantasists who want to blame everything on an invisible boogeyman type situation. No, it's definitely totally real, honest. But anyways, in terms of the actual speeches at the conference, they were, you know, much of a muchness. It was the same old fucking shit you would hear from any MRA event. It's basically exactly what you would imagine it to be. Chock full of rape apologetics and generally sort of misogynist, hateful bullshit, and you know, all of that sort of thing. So I'm not actually going to take a look at any one particular speech. What I'm going to do for the rest of this video is basically do a quick fire exposing the lies and refuting the bullshit type thing, which I probably should have come up with like a snappy title for and like an intro, but fuck that noise, right? We're just going to play some clips and I'm going to expose what a bunch of lying propagandist fuckwits they are. So let's roll the first clip, which I should explain is Paul Elam, who didn't actually... Why am I saying it like that? Anyway, it's Paul Elam, right, the leader of A Voice for Men and generally all-round fuckwit, who didn't actually attend the conference, which I'm not going to mock because it was actually a genuine illness thing. So he did like a pre-recorded video. But anyway, in this clip, he lies about Donald Trump.
The election of Donald Trump in America was much more than a shot across the bow. It was a political thermonuclear detonation. Even an endless barrage of accusations that he's a misogynist that continue to this day, normally death for an American politician, couldn't stop him. He gave them all the finger and won an electoral landslide.
An electoral landslide? You really are such a fucking Trump arse-licker, aren't you, Elam? Fuck's sake, right, stop lying. Trump lost the popular vote by around 3 million votes, and in terms of the Electoral College, it was the third narrowest margin since 1976, okay? This was the very definition of just scraping by, okay? Getting by the fucking skin of your teeth. And that's without even getting into the criminality and collusion engaged in with the Trump camp and foreign powers, right? Let's just put that to the side for a second, right? Just the raw numbers alone show that you, Paul Elam, are a lying piece of shit. But anyways, moving on, although sort of sticking with the topic of the orange wannabe Führer.
There's been quite a lot I've seen recently in the media about the rise of populism and the authoritarian fight back against that.
Let's remember how they try to manipulate us with language, right? Populism just means something that's popular that they disapprove of, right?
Right.
Their use of language is,
do you think it's a bad word though, or do you think it's? I kind of feel it's a useful word in some ways.
I think it's a word we should reclaim.
Yeah.
That on the grounds that populism is something that's popular, that a lot of people support.
No, that isn't what populism means. Fucking hell. Populism doesn't mean being popular, you fucking moron. Right. Populism is a political tactic used by political parties or candidates where they will appeal directly to the ordinary people, claiming to be on their side against a corrupt, established ruling elite. It's that setting up of the populace against this kind of elite that hates them and is in some way oppressing them. It does not mean being popular, okay? You can be an unpopular populist, and you can also be a popular anti-populist. Just because two words sound the same does not mean they mean the same fucking thing, okay? You total cult. And also, just whilst we're on the topic, populism doesn't necessarily mean right-wing either. You can have left-wing populism. You know, Bernie Sanders is a left-wing populist. Jeremy Corbyn is a left-wing populist. It literally just means that you're standing for the ordinary people against at least a perceived ruling elite who are, you know, in some way being overbearing at the very least upon the ordinary people. That's all it means. Anyways, next.
And that's why I stand here today with no notes, no nothing. I didn't even know how much I was actually going to get to say to you people today, because I work strong. I'm from I believe strongly in the power of the oral tradition. So we've been scratching things on bits of paper for a couple of 100 years, you know. But the power of the oral tradition, with timing, intonation, inflection, all of these things, can be way more impactful.
Now this guy is just fucking wrong, and I'll get onto that in a minute. But I just wanted to tell you briefly about a kind of weird mental tick thing that I had going on with this guy during the research. Because this guy's name is Darren Deoje, spelled D-E-O-J-E-E, but it's pronounced Deoje. So whenever I heard his name mentioned or saw it on screen, I could only think of D-O-double-G, as in the Snoop D-O-double-G. Snoop Dogg, the rapper, right? So every time I saw his name, this came on in my head.
It's the one and only D-O-double-G. Snoop Dogg! Snoop Dogg!
Snoop Doggy Dogg was another one that came on in my head. But I'm not playing two Snoop Dogg clips in this because it'll probably get a copyright strike or something. So, you know, yeah, so Snoop Dogg songs came on in my head when I saw this guy's name, which is a bit fucking mental, obviously. But, you know, I just thought I'd share that with you. And sharing is caring, and a professional therapist is expensive. But anyways, as to Mr. Deoje's point about, you know, supposedly that human beings have been, quote, scratching things on paper for a couple of 100 years. Right, that's not fucking true, Darren. Writing has existed for at least 5,500 fucking years. There are extant examples of such in museums around the fucking world. Now, there might be some pedants out there who'll say, well, he said just scratching things on bits of paper. Okay then. Well, paper has existed for about 2,500 years, which is still fucking massively longer than the couple of 100 years that Mr. DOG lied about. Anyways, yeah, and the reason I bring all this up is not because I'm myself being a peasant. Peasant? Well, I am a peasant, but that's a completely different matter. I mean, pedant. Right. It's not because I'm being a pedant about, you know, how long writing has existed. It's because these people, there's a mixture of MRAs, some of whom are traditionalists, some of whom are more MGTOW or whatever, and DOG very much fits into the traditionalist camp, to the point where he wants to say that the oral tradition is something fantastic and wonderful, which it isn't really. I'm sorry, right? We've been writing shit on bits of paper for thousands of years. We've been writing things on bits of stone and tablets and stuff for even fucking longer than that. And it's much more reliable when you write shit down. Because the problem with the oral tradition, Darren, is that it goes through the kind of Chinese whispers effect, where passing down from generation to generation, the stories become fucking absurd and completely different to the original story. Which, the original story comes from an ignorant time anyway, so it's total bollocks. And I would point you in the direction of basically every fucking major world religion for examples of that. So you can stick your fucking ridiculously traditionalist shit up your ass. And that's the thing, right? These fucking idiots dare to call other people regressives, right? Whereas they want to take people back to, you know, the 1950s or the Victorian era, or some of them want to go back to sort of, you know, Calvinist fucking Protestantism or whatever, right? Just like going back hundreds of years. Whereas Darren DOG wants to take us back, what, thousands of fucking years? Look, I didn't think I'd ever have to come on here and defend human writing, basic literacy, as a fucking concept. That's how regressive, actually regressive, these fucking pricks are. Jesus fucking Christ. But anyways, right, the next couple of clips I've put together, and they're from two WOMs that were allowed into the conference. I know, they've allowed WOMs in. It's political correctness gone mad. Anyways, the reason I put these two clips together is because they essentially tell the same lie.
we have Puritan authoritarians, overwhelmingly in the shape of feminists, trying to drag us backwards. These feminists in the last 3 years in the UK have managed to ban sexy ads from the tube and bus networks in London, stifle the Sun's Page 3 and many lads' mags, and to deprive grid girls and darts walk-on girls of their jobs.
And so that's helped me get my foot in the door. Most of the things that I talk about are feminist campaigners getting rid of, they got rid of the grid girls here.
No, it wasn't the evil feminazis that got rid of the Formula One grid girls. That was a business decision taken by Formula One as a direct response to similar decisions that have been made by other sporting organisations and ruling bodies, like the Professional Darts Corporation, which had made a very similar decision regarding their walk-on girls, which are very similar to grid girls. And those decisions, just like the Formula One decision, was based upon TV. Yes, the TV companies want a more family-orientated, family-friendly kind of environment. Not because of the feminists, but because of the bottom line, the money, the profits. This is nothing to do with the politics of feminism or anti-feminism. This is business, pure and simple. So, maybe you could stop lying about it? Now, the next clip is not necessarily about what the guy says, right? It's about the image he uses on the screen.
You have to make men disposable. First you introduce more chaos, make men disposable, and then you filter them out. So, and that is my provocative answer that I put into my slides yesterday evening after a lot of discussions about whether or not men have become more feminine, and that's about to stay, like Eric said yesterday. If Darren is right, that won't happen, because those will be filtered out. And then other men will be invited in who are more masculine, quite simply.
That image right there is fake, okay? It's photoshopped garbage. So well done to Oliver Hoffman, the guy who was speaking in that clip, for spreading far-right propaganda. You fucking twat. And as you can see here, the fake image there on the right and the real image, the original actual fucking image there on the left, you can see there that rather than saying we'll trade racists for rapists, what it actually said was we'll trade racists for refugees. So please, MRAs, for the millionth fucking time, please stop spreading far-right propaganda and lies. And also, talking of far-right propaganda and lies, Gamergate.
When we originally started the suit, we alleged the Calgary Expo and the Mary Sue got us kicked out because of our associations with Gamergate and men's rights activists. You know what Gamergate is, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so it's a consumer revolt for ethics and journalism.
Nope, it was a misogynistic hate movement for man-babies, much like the men's rights movement. Next!
It's just as bad at the University of Toronto, where not a single professor would come forward to support Jordan Peterson when he made his first declaration that he wouldn't abide by compelled speech legislation.
Oh my god, what a fucking hack you are, Fiamengo. You really fucking are. Because you know that Jordan Peterson's fucking objection there was not about compelled speech legislation, because Bill C-16 was not about compelled speech at all, you fucking liar. Every single Canadian legal expert I ever saw talk about this, and indeed the Canadian Bar Association themselves, I've left a link below to it, right, refuted Jordan Peterson's fucking bullshit about this, okay? So the people who know, right, the people whose fucking profession it is to know what the law is, totally fucking reject Jordan Peterson's fucking fear-mongering bullshit about this. All that C-16 was trying to do was to equalise trans rights with other rights, so that you couldn't, for instance, sack someone simply for being trans, in the same way that you can't sack someone for, race and gender, religion, ethnicity, those sorts of things. It was just including trans as one of those things. That's all it was doing. It was equalising it so that trans people had the same rights as everyone else. So Jordan Peterson was just being a fucking man-baby piece of shit, right? He was just being a transphobic arsehole. As indeed it seems, Janice Fiamengo, are you. And whilst we're on the topic of Kermit Peterson...
Now, the presenter was Nicky Campbell, a male feminist, and he did all he could to direct questions towards the left of the semicircle, towards the feminists, and in particular to a young man at the far left end who wore a shirt with a pattern of red hearts. The young man explained he lives half the week as a man, half of the week as a woman. He makes a living from his drag queen act. To the BBC, he was clearly an inspiring example of masculinity in the modern era. I'll say no more. After I'd outlined my point that the human rights of men in this discussion, after I'd outlined my point that the human rights of men and boys in the UK today are assaulted by the state's actions and inactions, almost always to privilege women and girls, the young man trotted out, parrot fashion, something along the lines of, "We live in a patriarchy in the UK, in which men as a class oppress women as a class for the benefit of men." Now, had Professor Jordan Peterson been in the lineup, I'm sure he'd have responded with some very finely nuanced arguments.
No, Mike. No, he fucking wouldn't. Jordan Peterson would most likely spout off some pseudo-scientific shit about lobsters before going into a long, rambling, fucking word salad, fucking stream of consciousness bullshit about order and chaos and the Bible and Eve eating the apple and all that fucking guff, because he is an intellectual fraud and charlatan. And, in light of his recent threats to sue somebody for daring to call him a misogynist, I'd like to take this opportunity to call him a misogynist, because he is a misogynist. So, Jordan B. Peterson, you are a misogynist. You're also a massive fucking hypocrite who doesn't actually care about freedom of speech in the slightest and just hides behind that in order to try and protect himself from rightful criticism because, you know, you're a fucking intellectual fraud and charlatan and all that. But I want the takeaway from this to be, you're a misogynist. Jordan, you, Jordan B. Peterson, are a misogynist. Okay? Okay. Moving on.
The ultimate ideological goal of third wave feminism was not the equality of men and women. It was the complete overthrow of the God of the Bible.
Now, whilst of course that is my own personal goal, Saros be praised, opinions within feminism vary on the issue of overthrowing the God of the Bible, you fucking lunatic. I mean, do you honestly think that's the goal of feminism? What are you talking about? I mean, what about the Christian feminists? You know, the ones you were actually complaining about in the same fucking speech, you dick. Next!
But one issue that you guys have not discussed that I bring to the table is the fact that in, for example, the United Kingdom, from the age of 11, around 93% of young boys are compelled to play contact rugby against their will and occur all sorts of brain damage. That occurs both from concussion and microconcussions. This is state-sponsored child abuse.
Oh my god, this just gets fucking worse and worse. Child abuse. You think that's child abuse? You honestly, it's rugby for fuck's sake. It's just a sport being played by kids in school, which is good because it helps tackle the rampant obesity problem that we have in the West, which affects, you know, men and boys as well. So playing sport, probably a good thing in general, right? But, I mean, even aside from that, it's not fucking child abuse. If you think that's child abuse, I don't know what to tell you, other than to shut the fuck up because you don't know what you're talking about, dickhead. But other than that, I really don't know what to tell you. And moving on. Right, finally, it's time for this. Yes, it's the inevitable bit about rape. Now, of course, at the International Conference on Men's Issues in 2018, just like in every other fucking year they've had one, there was lots of rape apologetics and all that sort of stuff, as you would expect. So there was lots to choose from, but I've gone with this clip because it's something maybe a little different and exposes why these fuckers aren't actually for men and boys in the slightest. So, you know, take it away, Cassie J.
I absolutely think, you know, sexual assault and harassment is an issue that needs to be looked at and cared about, where victims should be heard and cases should be looked at and treated fairly. So I also think it should be regardless of gender. That I have heard many stories of men who have been sexually harassed or abused, and they do not get the same kind of attention.
Now, even though Cassie J is an intellectual fraud of the highest calibre, or should that be lowest calibre, whatever, even though she is that total intellectual fraud, she actually has a good point here. Male victims of sexual assault who have come forward have not always received the most sympathetic ear, and have certainly not received the treatment that they deserve as victims. And a prime example of that would be when Cassie J's good buddy and the founder of Voice for Men, and one of the people who helped put on this fucking conference, Paul Elam, called sexual abuse survivor Terry Crews a cuck for daring to speak out about the horrific abuse he had suffered. Yes, Elam really is a fucking piece of total unmitigated garbage. Yeah, Cassie, you have joined a movement whose main goal is to ensure that rapists get away with it, and that victims, regardless of gender, never see justice. So spare me the faux sympathy for male victims of sexual assault. You don't actually fucking care. If you did, you would call out the fucking festering scum that surrounds you in that movement. You most certainly would not be chummy as fuck with rape apologist pricks like Paul Elam and others within the men's rights movement, and indeed others who spoke and who you must have heard speak at that conference, because, you know, you were at the fucking conference. You would call that shit out, and you haven't. So fuck off. Anyways, right, let's wrap this shit up, because, you know, I'm fucking done here, right? Apologies for the slight lateness, and I say slight because I'm being kind on myself here. It took about 2 months to get through this episode. This was quite difficult to get through, not for any particular reason that it was horrific compared to the other fucking videos I've made in this series, but I just, it was, this conference was just like much of a muchness. It didn't inspire me enormously to make an episode, but I do this every year, so, you know, I ploughed through regardless, and it took about 2 months to get through, which was a little bit annoying, but whatever. Enough. So anyways, to all of the people involved in the International Conference on Men's Issues 2018, sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, go fuck yourselves.
Towns, now war is declared and battle come down. London calling to the underworld, come out of the cupboards, you boys and girls. London calling, now don't look to us, phony Beatlemania has bit in the dust. London calling, yeah, we ain't got no swing except for the ring of that truncheon thing. The ice age is coming, the sun's zooming in, engines stop running, the wheat is growing thin, a nuclear error, but I have no fear, cause London is drowning and I live by the river. London calling to the imitation zone. Forget it, brother, you can go it alone. London calling to the zombies of death. Quit holding out and draw another breath. London calling, and I don't want to shout, but while we were talking, I saw you nodding out. London calling, yeah, we ain't got no high, except for the one with the yellowy eyes. The ice age is coming, the sun's zooming in, meltdown expected, the wheat is growing thin, a nuclear error, but I have no fear, cause London is drowning and I live by the river. Yes, I was there too, and you know what they said, well, some of it was true. London calling at the top of the dial, and after all this, won't you give me a smile? The ice age is coming, the sun's zooming in, engines stop running, the wheat is growing thin, a nuclear error, but I have no fear, cause London is drowning and I live by the river. I never felt so much alike.